Hello, hello, all those beautiful faces. How we doing? How we doing? Stephanie checking in with another episode of Class Disruption. And today I wanted to talk to you about something I've been working on called Teachers for Open Schools. If you've been following my content for the past couple months, you'll know that I've put out several videos about opening schools. I've attended rallies, I've signed petitions, I've made posts, I've had conversations, both on camera and in direct messages. And what I've come to see is there is a community of teachers out there who is for open schools. But it seems like some of them are hesitant to speak out or they're unsure. So I created Teachers for Open Schools to create a community of teachers. So teachers who are currently teaching hybrid or fully in person can share their experience with teachers who are teaching fully remote. So they can show them that they are teaching successfully and safely during the pandemic in person. We're in the beginning stages of strategizing and organizing, and we would love for you to get involved. Please join our mailing list at teachersforopενschools.com. All the links are in the description down below. Follow us on social media. We have Instagram, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have YouTube. Follow, get involved. Let's amplify these posts. And if you are willing to speak out, whether you are a teacher who's teaching in person currently and wants to share that experience, or you're a teacher who's teaching virtually but knows that in person is the thing, or maybe you're a teacher who you're on the fence. I would love to hear from those teachers who aren't sure, because I know the fears are real. But I know once you see it happening in person and you see that magic of in person learning happening safely, you will want to get back in that classroom right now, too. So, like I said, all those links are in the description down below. Go follow over there and give this a video a like while you're at it. Subscribe if you're new here. We love your beautiful face. Welcome. Hit the notification bell because we got a lot more videos like this coming your way. And here's the PSA I put together about Teachers for Open Schools, information about what we're fighting for, why we're fighting for it, and what our platform is. So check that out, and I hope to see you on the other side. This is why we are Teachers for Open Schools, and this is what we're fighting for. My fellow educators, we are at a pivotal moment. It is time for us to come together and to stand up to open schools everywhere across the United States now. According to the WHO, as of December 1st, classrooms for nearly 1 in 5 school children around the globe have been closed. And that includes many districts across the United States that have been closed for all in-person instruction since last March. We recognize the pandemic is very real, but so too are the impacts of school closures on our youth. And that's why Teachers for Open Schools is calling for a more balanced approach to policy. Because just like we can see and count the deaths with COVID-19, we can see and feel the impacts of school closures on our youth. In Chicago, at Lurie Children's Pediatric Emergency Medicine, they've seen a 50% increase in mental health visits. In Texas, Dr. Lisa Elliott, a psychologist and clinic manager for Cook Children's Denton Behavioral Health Center, said, "We had more suicide evaluations done in the month of September than I think in our history of the hospital in our emergency room. There's not enough patient beds." In Arizona's Pima County, according to the health department, they've seen a 67% increase in suicides among children ages 12 to 17. And unfortunately, this doesn't even begin to capture the bigger picture: the learning loss, the negative impacts on the physical health. We know from preliminary data, failure rates are at historical highs. And even for our students who don't seem to be suffering to this extent, they're missing out on essential experiences and opportunities to socialize before they're expected to go off into the world and be fully independent citizens. And we know from past research that there are lingering long-term negative effects from large-scale disaster events, for example, Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Harvey. According to Andy Keller of the Meadows Mental Health Policy Institute, it actually predisposes people, especially young people who lose parents or siblings, to more risk of being traumatized later and sort of removes some of your resilience. and those effects last for years. Not only is it limiting the potential of all of our students, we know that it is disproportionately negatively impacting our poor and working class families. That's why Teachers for Open Schools is advocating for safe reopening of all schools across the United States now. We know it can be done because it's being done so many places across this nation and across the world right now. Teachers have been back in the classroom in person with their students for months, and there have not been any super spreader events. According to Sally Permar, medical doctor, PhD, and professor of pediatrics and immunology at Duke, we haven't seen any super spreader events that ignited in schools. The fear that you'd have one infected kid come to school and then you'd have many other kids and teachers and relatives at home get infected, that hasn't happened. In fact, in 4 states, Florida, Texas, Iowa, and Arkansas, there's a state order that in-person instruction must be available on part-time or full-time basis. Likewise, there are many districts and schools across the nation that have decided to go back in person, while districts and schools nearby have remained virtual. And yet, those districts and schools that have gone back in person have not seen any more community spread than those districts that have not. Dr. Randa Grob-Zakari, the head of Insights for Education, a foundation that advises education ministries around the globe, says there's no consistent pattern. It's not that closing schools leads to a decrease in cases or that opening schools leads to a surge in cases. And yet, in states like California, there are strict top-down mandates that prevent the public schools from opening, while private schools all across the state have been operating in person, often full-time, from September without any issues. Again, it's our students with the fewest resources being disproportionately negatively impacted by school closures. This is why we are Teachers for Open Schools, and this is what we're fighting for. All schools should be open at minimum on a part-time basis to ensure all families have access to a choice for in-person education. Students with disabilities and English language learners must have access to in-person, one-to-one, and small group therapies in accordance to their IEP. Schools should have reasonable safety measures in place to protect students, teachers, staff, and the community from the spread of COVID-19. Our most veteran teachers and those with significant long-standing health issues should be offered accommodations to teach from home for the remainder of this school year. We do not believe there is a one-size-fits-all approach to opening schools. And ultimately, these decisions must be driven locally by coalitions of families, teachers, and local community leaders. We do, however, believe that school closures are causing short and long-term harm to our students, and we can no longer sit on the sidelines and wait. If you are also a teacher for open schools, now's the time. Join our movement by signing up for a mailing list at teachersforopενschools.com. And be sure to follow us on all the social media platforms at Teachers for Open Schools. That's 4 with the number 4. At Teachers for Open Schools. Thank you for fighting for our kids, and let's get these schools open. Like I said, until further notice, all my time and all my energy outside of my regular teaching job and taking care of my son is going into Teachers for Open Schools. What is happening, what I see happening firsthand to our children being deprived of their right to education is unacceptable. And I will fight until the end for this. We must open all schools now. But you know how I gotta end this? Always on a positive note, because anytime you're taking anything serious on, you gotta, keep it light. You gotta be able to laugh at yourself. You gotta be able to enjoy. And so we going for these open schools full force, but we also stay foolish, y'all.